This is an HR program on demand, a living seed capsule of work life and workplace coming live from a rooftop in Stockholm, Sweden. It's me, Ann-Marie Andrich, and
me, Katarina Berg.
A vodcast, if you like, on HR, straight across the counter. Sponsored by HRTheRealDeal, HR by HR for HR. Hello, Katarina.
Hey, Ann-Marie.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So let's talk about HR.
Let's talk about HR.
What's trending in the HR landscape currently?
I think what has been trending, and it would be wrong not to say, obviously the pandemic. Yeah. I think people have had a focus in the pandemic. Secondly, I think what's trending now is that everybody wants to share how they handle the pandemic. And thirdly, I think everybody now have made themselves as expert on what life and work life will look like when you come back, no matter where you are. And if you're a global, international, or if you're a very local kind of industry or business, people tend to, no matter if they are asked or not, tell what that will look like exactly. And then I think the fourth thing that is trending right now is that it's diversity, inclusion and belonging. How do we make sure that we don't lose track on that when we all work in distributed or remote or work from home forced? And then I think the third topic that is trending within HR is mental health. We are obviously affected, all of us, by not having the typical interaction and seeing each other, and even being able to high five each other or work together and be collaborative and innovative and creative and ideate on each other's ideas.
Actually, I think that was 5 things.
Yes, but you said 3 and I had 5.
Exactly.
A lot of things trending.
A lot of things trending, exactly. So I just one a few things just to comment on. I really, when you say that HR has come together during the crisis to share the learnings on how you manage the crisis, I think that was one of the things that I so appreciated with working in HR for the past few months. It was very clear that we were all sitting in the same boat. The crisis behaved in a way that we've never seen before, right? So it was sweet to see that, regardless where you were in the world, you could reach out to an HR peer outside of your organization and your team and say, how are you doing? So you leveraged on that network. And that I thought made us stronger. And hopefully also made us a bit faster as we were managing the crisis wherever we were and in whichever business we are maneuvering in, if you wish.
So true. It was very clear. It was not just connecting the dots. It was also collecting the dots.
Exactly.
And then if we could do that together, that actually helped us. And I think it pivoted our work. It made it more fun. And let's face it, you're quite alone when you take decisions. And it's about people's safety and their lives and their well-being. And if you can lean into a bigger community where everybody has this, front, left side, center, I think it's super important, and that gave me a lot of energy. Even the days where it was most tiring, to be honest, because long hours and a lot of responsibilities. But we all know you don't do this for the easy days. You do this type of work when you can do and make difference, and I think we did all around the world.
Yeah, we did for sure, and indeed very long days and hard work during quite a few months there.
Yeah, and we're not out on the other side of the tunnel either. But it just changes, the creature has changed, and I think you wanted so long to catch that wet soap, and then when you got it, still you have to use it, right? You have to clean your hands and wash your hands all the time. But I think now we, if not ahead of the curve, we are on the curve kind of, and it's, I'm not talking about the same curve that we are trying to help to flatten out. So I think that has been helpful, and it's also been, even if it's a strange word to use, it's been quite fun.
It has actually, very fun. And rewarding, and also,
which is a much better word, but
yeah, but it's been rewarding, I think, and also, I think we learned quite a lot during the crisis, and it has accelerated a few things also for us. For example, you mentioned remote working, distributed work, or flexible work, or work from home, or whatever we call it nowadays. And I often hear, and you obviously also hear, that it's labeled as, the new normal.
Yeah.
Any reflections on why it is labeled as the new normal, if you think about it?
I have a couple of reflections, and I'm going to boomerang back one to you. But my first reflection is that technology has been here for a long time, and for all those companies, including the one that I work for, Spotify, it wasn't like we had to learn new ways of working. It was actually not also that we choose now to have more flexible work life, meaning sometimes I work from home, sometimes I work from a cafe, sometimes I work in the office. We were actually forced, all of us, to go home for good reasons, to help and support, to minimize the spreading of the virus. But also in our case, we could do that easily because we were digitalized and we already had the processes and the meetings and the setups. So I'm not really sure if the new normal is new to begin with. Secondly, I think, if you draw very fast conclusions, I listened to Bob Keegan a couple of weeks ago doing an Odyssey, which I thought was quite interesting. It should be for everybody that are like you and I, behaviorists. The real takeaways from the Spanish flu, which is similar to COVID-19, took 100 years. Right? To see how people moved, how they changed behaviors, patterns, office, work life, and so on and so forth. So for us now, in the midst of the crisis, go like, this is what it's going to look like. I would be a bit careful. We can all discuss. We can all bet on different things, and a couple of companies have been very fast out the gates, going like, we are now taking away all the office, we will never work in the office again, and all that. Well, that is new. That is new that you go out, but I think you have to, in our line of work, question why and why they do that. Is it because this is an easy way to say that you are a people first company and save all that money on a AAA location office, right? Smart move to do, but not very people-centric. Or is it, hey, we all know that the real estate and the office management and facility management takes time. Nobody's never happy. And everybody is complaining of something, and it could always be more air, it could always be a bit warmer, it could always be this, and it could always be that. What if you took that out and said, you're going to work wherever you want, you still work for us, and you know what, there are ways to measure efficiency or productivity or whatever if you're that type of company. So I would rather have a discussion and a debate of why are they so fast to say that, and have already stopped prolonging their leases or said that they will not, after this new year, have an office. That is one thing, but the question I wanted to ask you rather, because if we talk about new ways of working, 10 years ago, it's that long ago.
It's a decade.
You were working at Microsoft Nordics here, right, in Sweden.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you and that lead team pushed for a lot and communicated a lot, and also brought you to celebrate a lot of different successes, both in business, but HR-wise and employee branding-wise, and etc. What people that are experts now are claiming or writing books or debating and stating like really strong is exactly what you guys said 10 years ago. How does that even make you and that team feel? Is it like, cute, you finally got it, or hey, we needed a pandemic to push people into what we were talking about? Or is it like, yeah, that is actually the old and the new, let's see what that actually is?
Yeah, it's interesting that you raised this, because I just touched base a few weeks ago with some former peers of mine at Microsoft, and we all concluded that, okay, so what we advocated and talked about 10 years, or started to talk about 10 years ago, it actually needed a virus to get the world moving. And it's so interesting to see that, that kind of, let's say, digital transformation got accelerated in 2 months, right? But it's interesting. And I would also say that and hopefully not sounding too arrogant when I say this, but some of the things and the learnings that we shared then 10 years ago has, proven to be right. There are a few things that you need to be mindful of when you go into that sort of distributed work, right? So it's about, I would say, it's about, being clear on, why is flexible work going to work for us? How does this embed in our business, in our culture? And another thing is, I think you need to, there is not one size fits all. You need to stem from who you are and how this makes sense for you, right? So whatever works for Spotify doesn't mean that it works for Microsoft or Husqvarna, where I am currently. So you need to be very close to who you are and where you're heading, and also to your purpose and your why, right? Another thing that is very clear is that technology is there. So it's not like you say you have to go into a physical place in order to do your work. No, that's not true, right? You can actually do your work wherever you are, because we all have technology. But I think at the end of the day, where it ends is you have to trust your people. Yeah, you have to trust your people on, if you're clear on, where you're heading, why you're here, then the people will figure out how. So trust them on that they will figure out how and where they will do their work, right? It will affect leadership, because leading virtual teams, leading dispersed teams is not the same as leading people when you physically see them every single day. And that is a skill. I will have to say that is a skill, and you have to re-engage with your leaders on this. You have to remind them of how important it is to do those one-to-ones, frequent check-ins, for example, and also be mindful of that people learn to navigate in these waters in different ways. So you also need to flex your leadership style in this kind of setting.
Since we are among friends and only very, very, secluded community of HR people will see and listen to this, how on earth do you and that team stay a bigger person with all these new self-proclaimed like experts on something that you guys have worked with and known and done research and tried in real environment for several years, and now hear everybody, hey, this is this means this, all that? Is it either good because it's good for work life, it's good for companies, it's good for mankind, or is it like it would sometimes also be nice if people gave cred where it's served?
I would go with the first.
Okay. You just stay a bigger person. Okay.
I would go with the first.
Okay.
So I think if we accelerated, flexible work, trusting people, I think that this is where I would go. Yeah. Now, I will be honest. What annoys me, and where I struggle a little bit, and where I can get maybe I'm not then the bigger person, is when people who have not done this, and especially the ones who have not worked in HR or are not working in HR, package this into a truth and then sell it back to HR like this is how you should do HR, but they themselves have never been in the HR field. I have to say this is when I become a bit...
Is this where your pulse goes up slightly?
Yeah, it goes up.
Okay.
It does, for sure.
Fair enough. So should we end this discussion with what I think would have been also maybe a bit more nuanced take before we all kind of went out? And when I say all, I haven't heard you say, and I haven't heard myself say it yet, that the new normal is not new, and what we knew as the normal will never happen again. Wouldn't it be a bit nicer and also maybe a bit smarter to talk about a hybrid, that the lessons that we have learned when we were forced, these are the ones that we bring in to what we think actually will work in the new open again.
Yes. Agreed.
And flexibility is one of the things that is important, and technology is another. But it's going to go back to the three things that you always talked about: people, place,
yes,
and technology,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And the workplace will obviously, I mean, I think that, and you mentioned this earlier, I think what companies need to do is to revisit, okay, what will the workplace look like to embrace people when they actually want to go to the office, because the office, the physical place, is still going to be relevant, for sure. But maybe you need to refurbish it a bit differently, so it's more of a meeting place, enabling social interactions and so forth. But I think you're right. It's about the people. It's about technology, and it will definitely still be about the workplace.
Cool.
For sure.
And your old slogan, yours and Helene Lidström's, work is actually not a place you go to, it's something that you do.
It's still relevant.
Okay, still relevant.
I would say. Okay, so why don't we wrap this up, and Katarina, you close it with the three things that you normally close it with.
Yeah, so stay safe, stay strong, and stay active.
Idemodalje.